Marcus Kane liked to tell people that most of his workdays were normal, but anyone who knew him would have laughed at that description. His version of normal usually involved crawling through abandoned metal carcasses floating in deep space, hoping to find something just valuable enough to justify the fuel it took to reach them. On this particular day, he was buried up to his elbows inside the fractured remains of an old orbital station, one that had clearly been dead longer than most species kept historical records. He grunted, yanking at a stubborn power coupling welded in place by decades of corrosion. "Oscar," he muttered to the ship's AI, "remind me again why we're salvaging a station that hasn't had life support since before I was born." Oscar sighed in that mechanical way he perfected after 5 years of dealing with Marcus. "Because, Marcus, your business model seems to be, if it isn't actively exploding its treasure. I would like to remind you that this is a very flawed definition of profit." "Oh, please," Marcus replied, finally wrenching the coupling free. "Low risk, high reward. That's the dream, Oscar. Your risk assessment is equivalent to asking a meteor whether it feels lucky." Marcus snorted. "What's the worst that could possibly?" And that was it, the sentence, the universal trigger phrase for disaster. Anyone with survival instincts knew better than to tempt fate like that. But Marcus Kane was human, and humans, bless them, were biologically incapable of keeping those words out of their mouths. Because right after he said that, he heard a sound that did not belong in a dead station, a soft, trembling whimper. Every instinct in Marcus's body lit up like a reactor going critical. The sound tugged at something primal, equal parts compassion and fear. He followed the noise through twisted corridors until he reached an old maintenance bay half crushed by a collapsed support beam. There, curled in a small nest of torn insulation, was a furry, quivering ball of misery. Marcus froze. No way. It wasn't just any small creature. Anyone with a basic education in things that could kill you recognized what was instantly a Vorak cub. Oscar's alarm crackled through his comm. "Marcus, do not, I repeat, do not approach the creature." Marcus ignored that. He crouched down slowly. "Hey, there, little buddy." "Marcus, that is a young Vorak," Oscar emphasized. "A species classified as an apex-level biological catastrophe. Adults reach 8 feet standing, 500 pounds, and possess claws capable of slicing through reinforced armor." The cub whimpered again, pathetic, frightened, hurting. Marcus's heart cracked clean in half. "It's injured," he said softly. "Look at it. It's a creature designed by evolution to be a walking extinction-level event. It's a baby. A baby designed to eat grown warriors for breakfast." But the cub lifted its head, big dark eyes shimmering like it already expected abandonment. Marcus reached out a hand, slow and deliberate. The tiny creature gave a tiny chirp and leaned toward him. That was the moment Marcus made what historians would later classify as the first catastrophic life decision of Marcus Kane. He picked the cub up. It curled instantly into his arms, burying its face into his jacket with a soft, exhausted sigh. Oscar sounded like someone watching a friend hug a time bomb. Marcus, please. This is how horror holovids start." "Too late," Marcus whispered. "We're committed." Within minutes, he was carrying the cub back to his ship, mind already racing with how to help the poor thing. He managed to set it gently onto a padded crate in the med bay before rummaging through storage. "Oscar, do we have anything resembling milk?" "We have emergency protein gel. It tastes like sadness and industrial waste." "That'll do." Marcus mixed a quick formula that looked like toxic sludge, but the cub devoured it like it was a food of the gods. Within moments, the creature's trembling eased, and it pressed against Marcus's hand with a soft, purr-like vibration. "Oh, great," Oscar muttered. "You've imprinted on it. Wonderful. We will die horribly." Marcus wasn't listening. He was too busy smiling at the small creature snuggling into his jacket, like he was the safest place in the universe. "What should we call you?" Marcus asked quietly, and thus, with the kind of reckless innocence only humans possess, he whispered, "Buttons." Oscar let out a digital groan that rattled the speakers. And that was the moment the galaxy unknowingly changed forever. For the next several hours, Marcus moved around the ship with the single-minded focus of someone who had just adopted a toddler with knives for hands. The tiny Vorak cub, Buttons, had finished the improvised formula and was now curled up on a mound of spare insulation, making soft, rumbling noises that vibrated to the metal floor. Oscar watched all this through the ship's internal sensors with the digital equivalent of a horrified stare. "Marcus," the AI finally said, "I feel obligated to remind you that you are caring for a creature whose adult form hunts starships for fun." "Correction," Marcus replied, tucking a blanket around the cub. "I'm caring for a baby who needs warmth and snacks." Oscar's tone went flat. This is how natural disasters begin. But despite every xenobiological warning recorded in galactic history, Buttons behaved nothing like the monstrous descriptions in the archives. He was soft, clumsy, and unbearably attached to Marcus. When Marcus left the room for even a second, Buttons cried, loud enough to rattle loose panels. On the third such episode, Oscar sighed. "Marcus, he's developing dependency traits." "Good," Marcus said, giving the cub gentle chin scratches. "That means he feels safe." "Safe?" "Marcus, Vorak imprinting is not safe. When a Vorak bonds, it bonds for life. It will consider you family. Pack, mate, something." Marcus laughed. "He's not going to think I'm his mate. I hope. I truly wish your confidence were founded in scientific reality." From that day forward, Marcus became a full-time caretaker. He modified Button's sleeping area with reinforced padding and a heat coil. He crafted toys out of spare couplings and insulation tubes, mostly because Buttons kept chewing through everything else. He even installed extra plating to keep the cub from falling through the floor whenever he got too energetic. "What kind of apex predator is this adorable?" Marcus murmured as Buttons rolled onto his back, demanding belly rubs. "The homicidal kind," Oscar snapped. "Stop normalizing this." But Marcus didn't listen. Humans rarely do when something small is cute. Weeks turned into months. Buttons grew, quickly. The little fur ball soon became the size of a large dog, then a very large dog, then a small shuttle. By the 1-year mark, Buttons weighed more than Marcus and had claws capable of peeling hull plating like fruit skin. The ship had to be reinforced, the ceilings raised, and multiple doors widened because Buttons refused to stop following Marcus everywhere. "Buddy," Marcus wheezed one morning as Buttons plopped squarely on his lap, now more of a controlled collapse than a sit. "You gotta understand, humans aren't built for this much affection." Buttons answered with a vibrating purr loud enough to scramble Oscar's external sensors. "I am detecting seismic activity," Oscar announced. "Wait, no, it's just him breathing." Still, despite his size and strength, Buttons never once harmed Marcus. He moved with surprising restraint, always curling his claws inward when playing, and never using his full weight unless accidentally. Oscar analyzed the behavior endlessly. "Marcus, I have studied every Vorak pattern we know. This degree of emotional regulation is impossible. You might be the only living creature who has convinced a biological weapon to behave like a domestic animal." Marcus shrugged. "I just treated him like he deserved kindness." "Yes, well, apparently kindness can reprogram apex predators. Fascinating, terrifying, deeply destabilizing for galactic society, but fascinating." Then came the day Oscar delivered the news that changed everything. Marcus was in the main cabin, trying to persuade Buttons not to use the ship's navigation console as a toy, when the AI spoke with uncharacteristic seriousness. "Marcus, we have a situation. A large one." Marcus looked over, eyebrow raised. "If this is about Buttons sitting on the air recycler, that was one time. No, this is bigger, much bigger. We're being tracked." "Tracked? By who?" "Zenthri military intelligence. Specifically Admiral Crix." Marcus blinked. "The Admiral Crix? The guy who thinks everything is a prelude to interstellar war." "The same. He had been following what the galactic media is calling the human Vorak incident. According to intercepted transmissions, he believes you have created a, quote, domesticated extinction-level creature." Marcus looked at Buttons, who was chewing on a reinforced crate like it was a marshmallow. "He thinks Buttons is a weapon?" He thinks Buttons is the end of civilization. The Vorak cub, now a massive adolescent, looked up at Marcus with innocent, adoring eyes. Marcus sighed. Well, this is awkward. Buttons chirped happily. And outside, somewhere beyond their little salvage ship, an entire military fleet was on its way. The warning arrived not with blaring alarms, but with Oscar clearing his digital throat in a way that instantly told Marcus life was about to get difficult. Marcus, the AI said voice tight, you may want to sit down. I am sitting, Marcus replied, wrestling a metal coupling out of Buttons' jaws. Technically. Kind of. He's sitting on me, but... Marcus, the Zen-3 defense fleet has exited hyperspace in our sector. Marcus froze. Oscar, how many ships are we talking about? 12 battle cruisers, Oscar answered. Fully armed, fully powered, fully prepared to atomize us on moral principle. Marcus blinked. That many? For us? No, Oscar corrected. For Buttons? That got Buttons' attention. The massive Vorak lifted his head, ears twitching as if he could sense tension even through vacuum and steel hull. His pupils narrowed protectively, but Marcus patted his shoulder. Easy, buddy. Let's see what they want first. Oscar snorted. They want us not to exist. Before Marcus could respond, the ship's console flashed as an incoming transmission forced itself onto their main screen. The display crackled to life, revealing Admiral Crix, a towering Zen-3 with 4 eyes, a thick braided beard, and the expression of someone who had not slept since the last century. Human vessel, the Admiral growled. This is Admiral Crix of the Zen-3 Defense Force. You are harboring a Class 12 galactic threat. Release the creature at once. Marcus blinked. Creature? Wait, you mean Buttons? There was a long, stunned silence. Crick's upper left eye twitched. Buttons? Yeah, Marcus said proudly. That's his name. You named it? Crix bellowed. Humans, why do you always name dangerous things? Why do you bond with things specifically engineered to kill you? Marcus shrugged. Have you seen his nose? It's adorable. Oscar muttered. We are all going to die because you think he's cute. Admiral Crix drew in a breath that suggested he was seconds away from ordering the fleet to fire. Human, this creature is a nightmare given physical form. You cannot possibly believe you have domesticated it. Marcus pointed at Buttons. Buttons sit. Buttons sat. The ground shuddered. The reinforced floor groaned. But he obeyed perfectly. The silence from the Zen-3 fleet was so absolute that Oscar ran a diagnostics check to ensure the audio feed hadn't died. Crick stared. Marcus continued. Buttons shake. Buttons lifted a massive paw and gently placed it in Marcus' hand. Oscar whispered, I think the Admiral's nervous system just rebooted. But Marcus wasn't done yet. Buttons play dead. With the grace of collapsing shuttle, the enormous predator flopped onto his side and stuck his tongue out. A Zen-3 officer off-screen could be heard fainting. Crix swallowed hard. This is not possible. Oh, it's very possible, Marcus said. He even fetches. Watch. Buttons. Stop, the Admiral shrieked. No more commands. My tactical officers are losing consciousness. Another Zen-3 voice in the background squeaked. Sir, our threat assessment AI just melted. Crix regained what little composure he had left. Human, this display does not change the creature's nature. You are still harboring a galactic threat. This situation requires decisive action. And that was when everything went wrong. Because Admiral Crix, brilliant tactician, decorated war hero, and professional overreactor, made a very bad choice. He ordered his gunners to target the ship, charge weapons. He never finished the sentence. Buttons' head snapped toward the display, pupils narrowing into razor slits. His fur rose, hackles flaring like a living storm. A sound built deep in his chest, low, rumbling, ancient, not the purr he gave Marcus. This was a warning, a promise, a predator's oath. Marcus felt the temperature of the room drop. Admiral, you might want to reconsider. But it was too late. Buttons unleashed a roar so powerful the lights flickered. The hull trembled. Oscar shrieked in binary. Somewhere, a bolt shot out of a wall panel and embedded itself in the ceiling. The electromagnetic pulse that accompanied the roar rippled outward. Across the fleet, every targeting system shut down simultaneously. Crick's eyes widened in horror. What did it just do? Oscar, stunned, managed to sputter. He protected Marcus. Congratulations, Admiral. You threatened his family. Marcus rested a hand on Button's side. The giant creature rumbled, calming slightly under the touch. Admiral, Marcus said, voice gentle but firm. We need to talk. Crick sank back into his chair, the first flickers of terror, and awe blending into something else entirely. Confusion. Because nothing in the galaxy made less sense to a hardened military commander than a human petting an extinction-level predator, like a misbehaving puppy. Admiral Crix did not board Marcus's ship so much as stumble onto it, still shaky from the fact that his entire battle fleet had been disabled by what the Galactic Database classified as a biological catastrophe with fur. Escorted by two nervous aides, Crix entered the salvage ship's small conference room, shoulders tense, for eyes scanning every corner like the walls themselves might lunge at him. Buttons was sprawled across the floor like a fluffy landslide, casually licking his paw. Every Zenthri officer flinched. Marcus patted Button's shoulder. He's just saying hello. Buttons answered with a soft chuff. Crix made a strangled noise. Human, that sound to level a village. Marcus smiled. He's being polite. Polite? Crix sputtered. His species once depopulated an entire moon by accident. Marcus shrugged. Babies are clumsy. Crix closed his eyes. This is insanity. Marcus waved him toward a seat. Come on, Admiral. Sit. Let's talk. Crix sat very carefully, as if gravity had become optional. His aides remained behind him, trembling. Buttons rolled onto his back, which was Marcus's cue. He scratched the predator's belly. Crix watched, all four eyes widening. It allows that? He loves it, Marcus said. The Admiral stared in a numb daze. Human, explain to me exactly what you think you have accomplished here. What delusion convinced you to adopt an apex predator? Delusion? Marcus echoed. I found a scared, hungry kid, so I helped him. That is not a kid, Crix snapped. That is a creature forged by evolution to dismantle civilizations. And you are treating it like a house pet. That's because he is a house pet, Marcus replied cheerfully. A very big, very loyal house pet. Buttons purred, loud enough that Crix's tea vibrated on the table. The Admiral watched the rippling surface of his cup and whispered, The sound alone could rupture organs. Marcus snorted. Only if he's angry. Crix pinched the bridge of his nose. Human, listen to me carefully. Apex predators respond only to dominance, environment, and fear. They do not understand affection. Marcus arched an eyebrow. He understands affection perfectly. Crix jabbed a finger toward Buttons. That creature imprinted on you. Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? A Vorax loyalty is absolute if someone threatens you. Yeah, I saw, Marcus said dryly. My ribs are still vibrating from the roar. Oscar chimed in over the speakers. For the record, Admiral, my external receivers will require recalibration for the next 3 cycles. Crix slapped the table. You see? This is not normal. No sentient being should have the ability to knock out 12 warships with a growl. Buttons perked up and wagged his heavy tail, knocking over a chair. Crix flinched so hard, he almost went airborne. Marcus gently rubbed Buttons' head. He didn't ask to be made scary. He just wants to be treated like everyone else. Everyone else? Crix echoed, baffled. Human, that creature could tear this ship apart without noticing. And yet, Marcus said calmly, he hasn't. Not once. Buttons leaned over and nudged Marcus with his snout. Gentle, careful, protective. Crix watched in stunned silence. Marcus continued. He isn't a weapon. He's a person. A big, misunderstood person with claws. A person, Crix repeated, voice thin. Human, it has instincts. Biological imperatives. Hardwired aggression. We all have instincts, Marcus said, shrugging. The difference is which ones we choose to listen to. Crix paused. That sentence shouldn't have made sense. But it did, and that terrified him. Button's ear twitched as Marcus continued. You've treated his species like monsters for centuries. No wonder they act like monsters around you. Everything learns from the environment it's raised in. Crix frowned. Are you implying the galaxy's most lethal predators simply needed nurturing? Oscar interjected. Marcus has been performing what xenopsychologists might call unintentional social conditioning. Marcus grinned. Translation: belly rubs solve most problems. Crix stared, truly stared, because in all his long years of military service, he had studied dozens of species, hundreds of conflicts, and thousands of fears. Never, not once, had he considered the possibility that humans' bizarre optimism might be a tactical advantage. Human, he said slowly, you are suggesting that we have misunderstood an apex predator for generations. Yup. And that the path to peace is, he hesitated, kindness. Shockingly, yes. Crix turned his gaze toward Buttons, who was currently batting playfully at a dangling cable. It behaves like a child. Because he is one, Marcus said. He just grew a little bigger than expected. A long silence stretched between them, filled only by Button's soft rumbling purrs. Finally Crix exhaled, shoulders lowering. Human, I believe we need to review some assumptions. Marcus smiled. Good. Because Buttons and I have plenty to show you. Buttons nudged the Admiral's leg gently. Crix didn't faint this time. Progress. Admiral Crix stayed aboard far longer than he intended. What began as a tense confrontation slowly morphed into a reluctant observation session, then into something far stranger. Curiosity. Genuine, uncomfortable curiosity. He watched as Buttons padded around the room, sniffing panels, nudging Marcus, occasionally sitting directly on Marcus's feet with the blissful confidence of a creature who did not understand the concept of personal space or gravity. Crix cleared his throat. Human, I have to ask, how do you know it won't suddenly revert to instinct? Marcus lifted his head from where he was scratching Button's chin. I don't. Crix blinked. That is not reassuring. Marcus shrugged. I also don't know if a human friend might stab me in the back someday, but I still make friends. That's life. That is not comparable. Crix said, all four eyes widening. Your pet can dismember a battlecruiser. And my friend Jeff once crashed a shuttle into a fuel depot, Marcus replied. We still play cards. People are complicated. Crix opened and closed his mouth several times, trying to decide whether this was profound or horrifying. It is still dangerous, he insisted. You're relying on emotion over logic. Marcus laughed. No, Admiral. I'm using the logic everyone forgets about. The simple kind. The kind that says treating someone well usually leads to them treating you well. Works for humans. Works for Vorak. Probably works for you guys too. Crix frowned deeply. His left beard tentacle twitched. This philosophy sounds like wishful thinking. Yet, Marcus said, gesturing at Buttons, here we are. As if on cue, Buttons lumbered over, towering above both men, and gently pushed his head under Marcus's hand. The floor creaked. Panels groaned. Crix tensed. Marcus just chuckled and scratched behind Button's ears. The enormous creature emitted a deep purr that vibrated through the metal walls. Crix swallowed. That sound should not be comforting. But it is, Marcus said. The Admiral stared for a long time, trying to rearrange his understanding of reality. Eventually he said, Human, I must ask you something difficult. Marcus nodded. Shoot. Do you know what this creature has been doing? Aside from following you around like an affectionate graviton storm. Marcus paused. What do you mean? Oscar took over smoothly. Admiral Crix is referring to Button's extracurricular activities. His what? Oscar activated the holo display. A series of blurry but unmistakable security feeds appeared. A mining outpost, a small colony, a trading station, a research platform, all under attack, all saved by something massive, fast, and unmistakably furry. Marcus's jaw dropped. Buttons did that? When? Approximately 9 separate instances over the last 3 months, Oscar said. He disappears for a few hours each time we dock. I assumed he was exploring. I was mistaken. The recording showed Buttons leaping through pirates' ranks, knocking weapons aside without harming the attackers. Not even accidentally. He moved with precision, disabling, disarming, protecting, never killing. Marcus blinked. He helped people? Crix nodded stiffly. Yes, and those people now speak of a guardian beast that saved them. They believe it is a mythic protector spirit. I came because I suspected something worse. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. Oscar, why didn't you tell me earlier? Oscar sighed. Marcus, I monitor 14 systems at a time. I can't exactly track Buttons when he decides to leave the ship through the ventilation ducts like a furry avalanche. Crix leaned forward. Human, do you understand what this means? Marcus looked at Buttons. The giant predator was staring at him with bright, earnest eyes. Then it hit Marcus. Hard. You've been protecting people, Marcus whispered, without me telling you to, without expecting anything back. Buttons tilted his head. Marcus reached up and rested a hand against Buttons' snout. Buddy, you're a hero. Buttons purred loudly. Crix exhaled in awe. Human, this changes everything. A Vorak acting on altruism? It violates every biological record we have. Maybe your records are wrong, Marcus said softly. Maybe you judge their whole species by their worst days. The Admiral looked genuinely shaken. If this is true, if instinct can be redirected, if kindness can reshape behavior. It can, Marcus said, because people rise to the expectations placed on them. If you treat someone like a monster, they become one. If you treat them like they matter, they act like it. Crix stared at Marcus and Buttons sitting together on the floor, a human scratching an apex predator's chin, and the predator humming like a living engine of affection. For the first time in his career, the Admiral whispered, Perhaps the galaxy has been doing everything wrong. Marcus smiled. Well, you're starting to do it right. Buttons rested his head on both of them. Crix didn't faint. Progress. 5 years later, Marcus Kane still refused to think of himself as anything special. He didn't believe he'd changed the galaxy. He didn't think he'd inspired diplomatic reforms, overturned centuries of xenobiology, or rewritten military doctrine. He believed, honestly, that he had simply raised a creature who needed love. The galaxy strongly disagreed. Marcus and Buttons had become legends, though Marcus preferred the term inconveniently famous. Everywhere he went, curious scholars, nervous diplomats, and overexcited scientists lined up outside his ship like fans waiting to see a celebrity. Oscar kept track of the numbers with mechanical disgust. Marcus, Oscar announced one morning, the 7th delegation this week has arrived. Shall I activate the "we're busy" sign? Marcus sighed. Which group this time? The Andromeda Xenopsychology Institute. Oscar replied. They wish to observe your revolutionary interspecies influence strategies. Marcus snorted. It wasn't a strategy. I fed a kid and gave him toys. Apparently that qualifies as groundbreaking science now. Marcus looked out the viewport as Buttons, now the size of ground transport, stretched yawned beside him, shaking the ship with the subtlety of a collapsing moon. Buddy, Marcus said, rubbing the Vorak's jawline. We might have accidentally caused a movement. Buttons responded by flopping onto Marcus's legs and pinning him to the floor. Oscar added, Congratulations. You have become a universal symbol of emotional irresponsibility. Thank you, Oscar. That means a lot coming from a toaster with opinions. I am an artificial intelligence, not a toaster. Do you make toast? No. Then stop complaining. Buttons chirped triumphantly as if supporting Marcus in this argument. The galaxy tries to copy Marcus's success. The trouble, or miracle, started when other species attempted to replicate what Marcus had done. Dr. Vexani of the Crystalline Collective tried bonding with a pack of shadow hounds from Vega. The hounds bonded. All right, after eating half his research team and declaring him their new alpha. He now ruled a small moon, reportedly very happily. The Regelian Commerce Guild attempted the Kane Protocol with their striking asteroid miners. Instead of fighting, they offered kindness, food, and respect. The miners ended the strike immediately, confused and deeply emotional. The guild was still struggling to understand non-hostile labor relations. The most dramatic attempt came from the Zen-3 military, who tried to befriend a void kraken. The kraken adopted the entire research station as its egg clutch, declared itself their guardian, and began giving unsolicited advice about life, taxes, and romance. Most attempts ended in chaos, but the galaxy kept trying. A new approach to diplomacy. One day, the Galactic Council summoned Marcus for what they called a philosophical briefing, which meant, explain to us how you broke reality. Ambassador Klee, wings fluttering nervously, asked, Human Marcus, what is your method? Your secret? Your replicable system? Marcus leaned back, hands behind his head. Treat people decently. The ambassador blinked all 4 eyelids. That cannot be the entire methodology. Okay, Marcus said. Here's the advanced version. Treat people extra decently. Chaos erupted. Entire academic fields collapsed. Several scientists fainted. Buttons ate an entire tray of pastries during the confusion. Then came the real test. One day, a species known only as the hegemony of sorrow sent an envoy. They were notorious for violence. Diplomacy never worked on them. Threats never worked on them. They had been at war with 8 civilizations for centuries. Their envoy, Dratter the Merciless, stepped aboard Marcus's ship expecting a human warlord commanding an apex predator weapon. Instead, he found Marcus making coffee and Buttons asleep on the ceiling vent. Are you, Dratter demanded, the human weapon master? Nope, Marcus said. I'm a salvage guy. Want some coffee? Dratter hesitated. What is coffee? A hug for your insides. Dratter took a sip. Dratter cried. They talked for 3 hours. They laughed. They shared stories. Buttons fell asleep on Dratter's feet. 3 months later, the hegemony of sorrow renamed itself the Collective of Constructive Discourse and began peace talks for the first time in recorded history. A cadet asked the big question. During a training seminar, a young Zen-3 cadet nervously approached Marcus. Sir, how do you make friends with things designed to kill you? Marcus smiled. Easy. I don't make friends with killers. I make friends with people who've been told they're supposed to be killers. The cadet frowned. But how do you trust them? I don't know that they won't hurt me, Marcus said. But I also don't know that they will. So I choose to believe the better option. Buttons nuzzled him proudly. Most people, Marcus added, live up to what you believe about them. The galaxy changes. Marcus and Buttons now travel aboard their upgraded ship, the Optimistic Fool, answering distress calls, settling disputes, and accidentally rewriting diplomacy by simply being kind. Buttons is no longer feared. He is respected, admired, loved. And sometimes, late at night, as the stars drift by, Marcus looks at his giant companion curled beside him and whispers, maybe the universe was always kinder than we thought. Maybe we just needed to treat it like it was. Buttons purrs in agreement. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the galaxy whispers back, maybe kindness really was the strongest force all along.